Hello and welcome to Firstpost Spotlight, where we bring you stories that matter to you from all across the world. From breaking news to the day's biggest controversies, we shed light on issues that shape our world. I'm Alison LaGrange, live from Durban, South Africa. Let's begin with the top headlines. Israel rejects a UN investigation that concludes that the country carried out genocidal acts in Gaza through systematic destruction of healthcare facilities. Canada announces retaliatory 25% tariffs on American imports and vows to follow dollar-by-dollar approach after US tariffs on steel and aluminium went into effect. China accuses New Zealand's top spy of lying after the intelligence chief warned of security risks posed by Beijing's growing influence in the Pacific. Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan sign a deal on demarcating their shared frontier, seeking to end a long-running border conflict that has seen dozens of skirmishes in recent years. And a 4.4 magnitude earthquake strikes the area around Naples, causing damage to buildings and triggering panic among several residents. No deaths were reported. Hello and welcome. We begin with the latest on the Ukraine war. It seems like the tables of diplomacy have turned again. And this time, Russian President Vladimir Putin finds himself in the same situation as Ukraine's Zelensky. Will he accept US President Donald Trump's proposal for peace, or will he reject it? Donald Trump has warned Russia's Putin of devastating sanctions if Moscow refused a deal on a 30-day ceasefire, which Ukraine has already accepted after talks with the US in Jeddah.
There are things you could do that wouldn't be pleasant in a financial sense. I can do things financially that would be very bad for Russia. I don't want to do that because I want to get peace. I want to see peace, and we'll see. But in a financial sense, yeah, we could do things very bad for Russia. It would be devastating for Russia, but I don't want to do that because I want to see peace. And we're getting close to maybe getting something done. We've got Ukraine done, and as you know, I've always said that Ukraine might have been the more difficult party. You were here a week ago when some interesting things happened. I had somebody that didn't seem to want peace. Now he's agreed to peace. So we'll see what happens.
Kiev, Washington and Europe are waiting for Moscow's response to the US proposal. Trump's special envoy, Steve Witkoff, is expected to hold talks with Putin this week. The US president said he had received positive messages regarding the ceasefire, but added that a positive message means nothing.
Do you think that Vladimir Putin will keep the ceasefire, considering that he's broken them in the past?
We haven't spoken to him yet with substance because we just found out and we just were able to get Ukraine to agree. So we're going to know very soon. I've gotten some positive messages, but a positive message means nothing. This is a very serious situation. This is a situation that could lead to World War III. And Biden should have never let it happen. Russia took Georgia from Bush, right? They took Crimea from a man named Obama, Barack Hussein Obama, right? They tried to take the whole thing from Biden. They're going for the whole ball of wax. Who was the only one that never took anything from? Trump.
The Kremlin says it is studying the ceasefire deal and that a phone call between US President Trump and Russian President Putin is possible. Reports say Vladimir Putin is ready with 3 demands for a ceasefire deal. Reports say the first demand is that Ukraine must formally commit to neutrality. The second is for Ukraine to abandon any ambition to join NATO. And the third is recognition of Russian claims to annexed territory. Ukraine says it is ready to do everything to achieve peace, but accuses Putin of making maximalist demands deliberately.
Russia needs to say very clearly, they want peace or not. They want to end this war, which they started or not. And this is today the position of Ukraine was absolutely clear It's absolutely understandable. And now it's important that the people in the world will understand, because this war, it's created the many crises. And this is make the influence to all the world. And you know, it's important that all the people in the world will understand who want peace.
Do you think that
need to act.
After the Ukraine agreed to a U.S. proposal on ceasefire, the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said the ball was now in Moscow's court. But initial signals from Russia have not exactly been encouraging. Amidst the diplomatic parleys, the Russian President Putin visited Kursk for the first time since Ukraine party invaded the Russian region in an offensive. Putin said his army was on the brink of fully liberating Kursk.
Our task is in the nearest future, in the shortest possible time, to completely defeat the enemy who has dug in on the territory of Kursk region and is still conducting military operations here, to completely liberate the territory of Kursk region, to restore the situation along the state borderline. And, of course, we need to think, I would ask you to think about the future and the creation of a security zone along the state border. We need to think about this too.
Ukraine had been trying to hold parts of Kursk as a bargaining chip, but its battlefield positions have been under heavy pressure. Kiev said it was pulling back its troops to minimize losses.
I am very serious about a ceasefire, and for me it is important to end the war. I want the President of the United States to see it. I want Americans to see and feel it. I want Europe and all to be in alliance in order to do everything to force Russia to end this war. Our troops in Kursk region are performing their tasks. Russians are trying to put maximum pressure on our troops. Military command is doing what it must. It is preserving lives of our soldiers.
For now, Moscow has made it clear it would make its own decisions about the war and not follow the lead set by Washington and Kiev in Saudi Arabia. So, did Putin trick Trump into thinking he wanted peace and that Zelensky was a warmonger? And shifting focus to Europe, where France under President Emmanuel Macron is considering to tax the rich to increase its defense spending. In the latest, French Economy Minister Eric Lombard said the current defense spending targets may require more taxes on the rich. The French minister did not specify the income levels of individuals to be taxed more. But in an interview, President Macron's Finance Affairs Lieutenant said that the government might raise taxes on individuals with substantial savings. The minister added that Paris is looking at the ways on how defense spending targets could be shared among the French population. Apart from raising taxes on French people with substantial savings, Paris is also looking to mobilize private sector to boost defense spending. The push for increased defense spending comes in the wake of war in Ukraine and the growing sense of unreliability on NATO under US President Donald Trump. And for that, France is now targeting to spend over 3% of its GDP on defense. This is up from its current 2.1% spend on military. Now, earlier this month, French President Emmanuel Macron called upon European allies to increase their defense spending to 3% of the GDP. France, along with the rest of Europe, is scrambling to compose a response to Trump-led America's new Ukraine policy. For the first time since the Second World War, European leaders now see Washington pivoting away from the continent's security commitments while seeking conciliation with Russia to end the Ukraine war. As France eyes taxing the wealthy to bolster its defense budget, Europe's realization of hyperdependence on the US for its defense takes center stage. But the increased defense spending push comes amid deepening transatlantic rifts, with Europe growing wary of an unreliable Washington. At the same time, Donald Trump's long-standing demand that NATO allies pay more for their defense continue to reverberate as France and the rest of Europe finally starts to shoulder more of its own security burden. And moving on, the arrest of former Philippines President Rodrigo Duterte on an International Criminal Court warrant continues to send global shockwaves. In the latest, the firebrand Filipino leader took responsibility for his controversial war on drugs campaign, which the Hague-based International Criminal Court says amounts to crimes against humanity. Duterte made the critical admission in a message recorded from the flight that was taking him to The Hague following his arrest in Manila. A defiant Duterte recalled his promise of a decisive Filipino win in the drug war waged during his presidential tenure. Duterte accepted that he remains answerable for his actions, which rights groups say killed several thousand people between 2016 and 2022.
To my countrymen, just to give you the current situation, I am about to land sa Hague. Galing ako Dubai, stopover for it's a long haul, it's a long flight. Okay ako, do not worry. And I think this is something to do with the law and order noon. At sinasabi ko naman sa mga pulis at military na trabaho kayo at ako ang managot. So ito na nga. For all of the whatever happened in the past, ako na yung nag-front sa ating law enforcement at military. Sinabi ko na I will protect you and I will ako ang managot sa lahat. Will be a long legal proceedings, but I say to you, I will continue to serve my country at so be it. Ganun ang destiny ko. Salamat.
After landing in The Hague, the former Filipino president was handed over into the custody of the International Criminal Court. Scores of Duterte supporters lined up along the streets in The Hague as he was being driven to a detention center. People with Filipino flags gathered outside the Dutch prison complex and erupted into chants of Duterte's name as he was brought inside. Inside the Dutch prison complex, Duterte joined the former Kosovo war crimes trial. The former Filipino president is being held in the same facility where the convicted Bosnian Serb war criminal Ratko Mladic is detained. At the same time, the former Filipino president has access to more facilities than convicted individuals, and among the privileges are conjugal visits, outdoor exercise space, unmonitored communications with legal team, visits by a minister or a spiritual advisor, as well as basic medical facilities with an on-staff nurse. Following Duterte's detention, the ICC prosecutor Karim Khan underlined that the former Filipino president must be presumed innocent until his potential conviction.
It's important to underline as we now start a new stage of proceedings, that Mr. Duterte is presumed innocent. He will make his initial appearance before the court soon, and the focus of the office is on the judicial proceedings and on proving its case before the judges of the International Criminal Court.
As this historic case unfolds, it's a moment of reckoning for the thousands of drug war victims in the Philippines, whose families have long sought justice. It's also a test of persistence for a legal process at the ICC that has taken years to reach this point. But on top of all, Duterte's arrest marks a deeply divisive moment for the Philippines, where the former president still commands a loyal base that sees him as a protector, not a perpetrator. Now, burnout is often dismissed as just another workplace buzzword, a vague complaint about stress that HR departments nod at but rarely act on. However, new research suggests that burnout isn't just an employee wellness issue. It's a financial disaster. A study published in the American Journal of Preventative Medicine reveals that employee disengagement and burnout cost an average U.S. company with 1,000 employees more than $5 million annually. Now, the financial toll of burnout varies. It depends on an employee's position within the company, but the numbers are staggering across the board. According to the study, non-managerial hourly employees cost their employers an average of nearly $4,000 per year. Non-managerial salaried employees cost more, averaging over $4,000 per year. And managers, who are often responsible for maintaining team morale, are significantly more expensive. Their annual average stands at over $10,000. But not the least, the executives, though they are less prone to burnout, they cause the most financial damage when they reach their breaking point. They cost businesses a staggering over $20,000 per year. Now, most companies assume burnout-related losses stem from employees calling in sick or missing work. While over 10% of the burnout costs are indeed linked to absenteeism, the far greater problem is presenteeism. Now, employees who show up but are mentally checked out. Now, this accounts for a shocking nearly 90% of burnout-related losses. Now, these workers may be physically present in meetings, responding to emails and going through the motions of their jobs, but their productivity is severely compromised. The result? Missed deadlines, costly mistakes, and a workforce that operates at a fraction of its potential. The financial losses are just one part of the problem. Researchers warn that burnout doesn't just affect individuals. It spreads. Yes, you heard that right. The more employees experience chronic stress and exhaustion, the more likely those feelings are to infect their colleagues, especially in close-knit teams. Yet, despite these alarming statistics, many companies fail to take burnout seriously until it's too late. Now, burnout doesn't happen overnight. It's the result of prolonged stress, unrealistic expectations, lack of recognition, unfair treatment, poor communication, and a lack of workplace support. Burnout isn't just about tired employees. It's about companies hemorrhaging money, losing top talent, and operating at a fraction of their potential. The financial impact is real, measurable, and unsustainable. If businesses fail to take burnout seriously, they risk more than just unhappy workers. They risk their bottom line. The choice is clear. Either invest in workplace well-being now or pay the price later. And that's all we have for you on the show for today. We will see you again tomorrow at the same time. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned to First Post.
From breaking news to the day's biggest controversies, shedding light on the world's top headlines, detailed analysis on the stories that matter the most to you. Catch it all on Spotlight at 6 p.m.